Hello everyone, this is Dimitris from Aptiva Software. Today we are going to see how to bring data from any API into Looker Studio. And how are we achieving this? By leveraging the power of Google Apps Script to develop a custom connector tailored to our needs. We will be working with a public API from hippolabs.com offering information about universities worldwide. Let's see what we're going to cover today. We're going to start with an overview of the API, then create a new Google Apps Script project for our custom connector, have a look at its main methods, and do a walkthrough of the actual implementation. As soon as we're done, we're going to deploy our connector, integrate it into Looker Studio, and create a report. At the end of the video, you will have a very good understanding of how to build your own connector and bring the data of any API into Looker Studio. And of course, if you need any help, let me know in the comment section below or drop us an email. At Aptiva, we help companies save time and money by integrating external APIs and automating manual time-consuming processes with a strong focus on the Google Workspace. So if you have a project in mind, get in touch. So now let's get started. So now let's have a look at the data that we want to fetch and present in Looker Studio. These data, as we said, are the data from the university data. So this is the link. And if you see here, you're going to see a university entity with different fields. What we're interested in for this example would be the Alpha 2 code, the country, and also the name. So now that I don't have any search parameters, I get all universities, but if I want to search, for example, by country, I can say that I want only the universities in Germany, and if I do that, I will get only the universities with the country set to Germany. So for our report now, we're going to call, within the connector that we're going to build, we're going to call this API and set the country as an input parameter. So now let's create our Google Apps Script project at script.google.com. So we go to script.google.com/home and then we create a new project. The new project is going to be, let's call it Looker Universities List Connector. Then the thing that we want to do is we want to go to project settings and click on this show app script JSON manifest file in editor. Once we do that, we will return and we'll see that the app script JSON is indeed here. So what we want to do here is add some extra information to let Google know that we're actually developing a Data Studio, Google Data Studio, Looker Studio add-on. So what we need to do is add this Data Studio section where we add the name of our add-on. We add the company. I've used my company, the logo URL, the logo URL of the add-on. I've used the logo URL of my company, and I've done the same things from the add-on and the support URL. The description is just simple. So this, if you're developing a connector just for you, this is not very important, but we need the Data Studio section to tell Google that we are developing something, an add-on for Looker Studio. So now that we are done with our settings, let's go to the code, where we'll have the chance to dive into the fundamental methods of a custom connector. These methods form the backbone of any connector, allowing it to interact seamlessly with Data Studio. So let's start with getSchema. This function defines the structure of our data. Think of it as the blueprint of our data source. It tells Data Studio what columns you have, their data types, and other metadata. Moving on, we have the getConfig method. This is where you define any user input fields or other configuration settings. For instance, if you're connecting to an API, you might ask the user for an API key or other credentials here. In our case, we're going to use it to define the search criteria for calling our university's API. Get data, this is the heart of any connector. This method is the heart of any connector. This is where the magic happens. This function fetches and returns the data that will be displayed in Data Studio. And this is common whether you're making API calls, querying a database, or reading from a spreadsheet. All that logic goes here. Last but not least, we have the getAuthType method. Authentication is a crucial aspect of data connectors. This function tells Data Studio how your connector will authenticate with the data source. In our example, we're using a type of none because we don't want, for this initial example, to implement any authentication. But if you want to build a community connector or a connector to be given to the public, then you could use it. And also, these four methods are the ones that are required for any data connector. I've added the isadmin user, which is necessary for us in this stage for the connector to work for debugging purposes and so on. So we have it as well, and we have set it to return true. Let's now continue with the actual implementation of each method. So regarding get schema and defining the schema, as we saw earlier, the structure of each university object has different fields, but we're going to use only country, alpha2 code, and name. And this is also how we define our schema here, which is going to be returned by the get schema method. Moving now on to get config, we see here that we define actually the input parameter. So we add a message for the user to write, to input the country name according to which we're gonna search in the university list of our API. Let's see now how getData is implemented. We start with the data schema for the return objects. What this part does is that when we are in the user interface, the user might select different fields to be shown, not all of them. So this is what we keep here in this data schema. And then we move on to making the request to get our data while gathering the input param, the country parameter, in order to construct our URL and get the results. And once we get the results, we then map the results to the schema of Looker Studio, and at the end we return the results, but only the rows that we collected that are defined in the data schema. Now we can proceed to the deployment, but in order to do that, we have to go back to our project settings in order to assign a Google Cloud project to our Google Apps Script project. Let's see. So now that we are in the settings page, we go to this section, Google Cloud Platform GCP project, and we need to assign a project to our AppScript project. So I have to press on change project. And in order to find the GCP project number, you have to go to this link here. Once you're here, you will either have already a project. In that case, we need this project number. If you don't have a project, then you just go here and you press new project. you create a test project, and now that it's created, you get and go back to your settings page, paste the number here, and press on Set Project. And now we are good to go. We're all set to start with the deployment. So what we're gonna do is go to deployment on the upper right corner, choose new deployment. And once we're here, we don't have to do much. The type of the deployment is gonna be set to add-on. We're gonna leave it like that. And then we're gonna give it a name. Let's call it my first custom connector deployment. And then we press on deploy. And then this is the add-on URL. If we copy it and go to this URL, then you will see our connector page, the add-on that we just created. It has the name and the company name that we defined in our JSON settings file. And here we also have the input parameters. We have the description, enter country name to fetch university data, and the country. For the sake of this example, I'm going to choose Greece as a country, and I'm going to check on this allow country to be modified within in the reports. And then we just press on connect on the upper right side. We are now one step later, where we can see that we have like the fields of the data that are going to be returned, as well as the parameters. Let's now create a report to see how it works. We press on create report on the upper right side. So now we are on our report page. Let's give it a name. Let's call it Universities List Report. And here we can already see the results. So on the right side, we can see the fields of the return data and also the input parameter. So I'm going to add it here as a field. Let me do that again. So, and here I'm going to also resize the columns a bit, look a bit better. And if I change the color, the countries, sorry, set it to Germany, I can see that the data is updating according to our input parameter. And if we want to do it a bit more beautiful, and if we want to make our report a bit better in terms of the looks, let's choose also a theme, dark theme. And put the results to the right. Also add a visual map of the country. So now we see Germany. If I change it to France, it's going to update both the map and the content. So that was it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave any questions you might have in the comments below, and feel free to contact us for an automation project you might have. We would be really happy to hear from you. Bye.